Hi, I'm Warren Spector, creative director at Junction Point, part of Disney Interactive, and I'm here to talk exclusively to game about games. Improving on your earlier work is always the goal. Anybody who's satisfied with the work they've done is not working hard enough, frankly. When we approached the opportunity to make a sequel, I mean, thank God we got the chance to do a second game in the Disney Epic Mickey universe. We started by looking at what we thought we could have done better. Moved on and looked at what fans were clearly telling us they wish we had done better, and then finally said, what do we do that's completely new and different? The stuff that we knew we could do better revolved around that choice and consequence gameplay that's so important to everybody at Junction Point, and certainly to me. In the first game, we were introducing a new audience of non-gamers to the idea that play style matters, that what you do in a game should make a difference. And when you're introducing people to a new idea, you kind of have to take baby steps. You have to walk before you run. And so we did what I call choice and consequence light. And so what you did in that game didn't actually make as much difference as I hoped it would, or as I think a lot of gamers hoped it would. And so in the new game, job one was, let's make sure that what you do really makes a difference. When you make a choice, it's forever unless you decide to go back and change it. And in some cases, you can't even go back and change it. So that was the first thing we decided to do. In addition, looking at what gamers told us, people who played the first Disney Epic game told us they wanted, clearly, man, were they loud and clear about the camera system. And as impressive as the work was that the Junction Point camera team did on that first game, we knew we could do better. We had learned so much making the first Disney Epic Mickey game that I think players are going to find the second game a lot more to their liking in terms of how the camera works. We also heard from Disney fans, more than gamers actually, but Disney fans told us we want to hear those characters talk. And so in the new game, everybody talks. Every character speaks every line of dialogue.
Come on, we need to release them.
It's more than that. I think those things are pumping the Guardians out of the ground.
That was a clear ask from gamers, which we are delivering on. And then in terms of introducing new elements, even before we started working on the first game, I knew that the second game, if we got to do one, was going to be about two-player co-op. We were going to let players become Oswald the Lucky Rabbit for a while, and the power of two really kind of expresses that. So that was the big thing we were going to do. The move to multiple platforms was pretty challenging, not in that we had to design a different game for different platforms or limit some of the more powerful consoles to allow the game to work on less powerful platforms. No, it was none of that. We had a game and an experience we wanted to deliver to players, a story we wanted players to tell with us. It's the same experience on all platforms, but boy, you need a lot more people to make a game that's on 8 platforms than you do to make a game that's on 1. So it was really a development challenge more than a design or technical challenge. I don't think there were any huge technical or design challenges at all, really. But developmentally, man, it was tough. Organizing something like 800 people in 10 different places around the world, that was rough. And all credit to Paul Weaver and some of the other production talent at Junction Point for making it work. I sure can't take credit for that. That was all them. I was just the guy who gave people ulcers, and they were the ones who had to get the real work done. I am a huge Duck fan. I love DuckTales. I love Darkwing Duck. I love everything Carl Barks ever drew and wrote. I don't know if I'm the guy to bring those iconic characters to the game screen, but I can think of a few things that would make me happier. I mean, if I were feeling a little bit more like an exhibitionist right now, I would take my shirt off and reveal the Donald Duck shirt I am wearing under my discreet Mickey shirt. But you'll have to save that for another time. Yeah, I'd love to do a DuckTales game. And that's another one of those things where Gamers, if you want to see a DuckTales game and you think I'm the guy to do it, my studio's the place to make it, let Disney know, okay? Let's start a groundswell and get that going. If I could take one part of the Disney universe and put it into Wasteland, only one? Wow, that's tough. That's not fair. Okay, if I could just take one, it would probably be Alice in Wonderland, the original Alice in Wonderland film. Just because the imagery in that film was so surreal and so crazy. I mean, like crazy hedge mazes and unbelievable things and, stuff that doesn't belong together going together. I mean, that's what Alice in Wonderland really sort of brings. And I think it'd be really fun to play with that in Wasteland. But in addition to that, the first time I went into the Disney archives, they asked me what I wanted to see. And the first thing I said was, can you show me everything you have about Alice in Wonderland, everything that went into the making of the Alice in Wonderland film? And about 10 minutes later, they stopped laughing at me because they have so much. And we had a real conversation after that. But they, Walt and the team that worked on the Alice in Wonderland film went through so many different potential visual styles before settling on the one that they used. I mean, very classic, sort of, 19th century traditional children's illustration styles, very sort of flat and modern, colorful Mary Blair concept art styles. And everything in between. I mean, it's incredible, the variety of looks that they tried before settling in on the film as it eventually looked on the screen. And that's the bread and butter of Wasteland. I mean, bringing all of those different looks and different approaches to Alice and different approaches to the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter, bringing all of those to one screen. Oh my gosh, I mean, what could be more fun and exciting than that? And Wasteland is the only universe in sort of the Disney pantheon of universes that could support that. So I would really love to do that. When you're making a game as big as Disney Epic Mickey or Disney Epic Mickey 2, the first thing you do is what the team and I are doing right now. You take a couple of months off. you rest up. You recharge your physical, emotional, and creative batteries. Most important thing you do. Then I think you kind of have to start with very clear goals. Part of the process that I go through on every project, not just Disney Epic Mickey or Disney Epic Mickey 2, but every game I've worked on, I have a series of questions I ask myself. I don't even tell the team about it, and I haven't actually talked about it publicly too much. But I have a series of questions I ask myself, and things like what's the one thing no one in the world's ever seen before in this game? Why is my team the right team to do this? That sort of thing. What fantasy are we plugging into that people already have? Because I don't see the point in trying to convince people to be interested in something. You start out with very clear goals, and then I have a document that I fill out for every project I do. And again, I don't usually share it with people, but if I can't fill out that template and look at it and go, yes, that is a game that I think is going to be special, then I just sort of shelve the idea. But once you have clear goals, and I've answered all those questions for myself, then it's time to sort of get with the team and do some really open-ended brainstorming. I mean, as much time as your funding partners will provide you to sort of flesh out those ideas. That concept phase is just a ton of fun because it's the time when you really do throw everything but the kitchen sink into things. And once you have this big glob of amorphous game clay, then you kind of start in pre-production, start shaving off the parts that don't actually feel like those original goals or the revised goals you've come up with during your concept phase. Anything that doesn't look like the game that you eventually want to make, you just sort of cut off. It's much more like sculpting than it is like like creating something by adding things to it. I think of painting and writing as an additive process, and for me, making a game is kind of a subtractive process, I guess. In pre-production, you take ideas that sound really good on paper or in your head, and you start prototyping them. You build prototypes, get your game, even if it's just a 5-minute chunk of your game, playable as quickly as possible. Because until you're playing something, you can't possibly know if it's any good. And then ultimately, I'm making this sound so easy. It's really painfully hard. But at the end of pre-production, you've prototyped a bunch of stuff. You've carved away all the stuff that doesn't feel like the game that you thought you were going to make. You've got a sculpture that looks sort of like the thing that you're going to make eventually. And you have what's called a vertical slice. At least at my studios, we call it a vertical slice. And that is a subset of the entire game. Like one of everything you're going to do in the game actually gets implemented and playable. So you can say, yes, all those ideas really do work. Then you go into production, and to be frank, people hate it when I mean, especially my publishing partners hate it when I say this, but that's the point where I get super bored and go away and let the team sort of do stuff. And that can last for like a year or two, because at the end of pre-production, I almost feel like, okay, the game's already made, time to move on to the next one. Let's let these guys who live to execute against all of those ideas you came up with. Let's let them live with this project for a while and do all the what I call the real work. And then, a year or two passes, you get done with production, your game is fully playable start to finish, and absolutely no fun. I mean, I guarantee you every game you've ever played gets to that point where it's playable from start to finish. You can sometimes see the potential. If you can't see the potential, you're in a world of trouble. But at that point, you then go into this sort of post-production phase, which is all about tweaking and tuning the gameplay and taking this thing that's finished but not fun and making it as fun as you can, and really going back to your first principles and saying, what do we have to do to this to make it realize that vision we had 2, 3, sometimes 5 years ago? And that's tons of fun too, man. I mean, I love that part. So the beginning and the end, I love that stuff. That middle part, not so much. Anyway, you spend as much time in that phase, that post-production phase, that tweaking and tuning, making it fun phase, as you can possibly finagle from the people who are paying your development costs. And then when they rip it from your hands, you go, okay, I guess we're done. Time to move on to the next one. Take some time off, recharge, come back and start conceptualizing the next one. That's it in a nutshell. Wow, I just made like the most insanely hard 3 to 5 year process sound almost easy, but it's not. It's a ton of fun and very gratifying, but man, a lot of work.